Where do you feel like the future of neuroscience is heading?
That's a great and fun question. So it's been so amazing to be part of this field of neuroscience because the modern age of neuroscience has really been in the last 20 years. It's very clear that we all have these brain circuits. That's not going to be like one brain area that causes fear or one brain area that causes creativity. It's circuits, just like keys on a piano, play them in different order with different intensities. You get different songs. Play different brain areas in different order with different intensities. You get different states of mind and thinking patterns and so forth. We are getting to the point now as a field where we can so-called read from the brain very well, meaning we can monitor the activity of neurons. We're kind of reading what's the activity patterns in these neural circuits.
Yeah.
fMRI, CAT scans, PET scans, dense electrode recordings, etc. The future of neuroscience is writing to the brain. It's taking those signature patterns, like the notes on a page that lead to a particular piece of music, and saying, well, what would happen if we took those notes and tweaked them a little bit and put them back in? So we're now going to start writing to the brain. And the ways to write to the brain require that we non-invasive tools, things like transcranial magnetic stimulation. You can put a coil on somebody's head and block the activity of a particular brain area. It's actually pretty eerie. I've had this happen where you're tapping your finger. Don't do this at home. This needs to be done in a lab, the right lab. Yeah. You're tapping your finger and all of a sudden it's frozen and you're like, oh my goodness. Or they'll move that coil and you'll start tapping faster and you can't even control it. And you're like, wow, it's really coming from the brain. And we knew that, but it's another thing to experience it. So writing to the brain with precision. There are tools coming out like ultrasound, which will allow not just blocking brain areas through the skull, but activating specific brain areas. And then there are the things like Neuralink, and Elon Musk has been, out there in the world talking about, wiring electrodes through the back of maybe a little hole in the skull behind the ear to write, and affect neurons in direct ways. I believe, and I have reason to believe, that most of the writing to the brain that's going to be done is going to be done for clinical purposes first. Treatment of movement disorders like Parkinson's and Huntington's and things like that. Yeah. We are some time away from non-invasive devices for recreational use. Now, there are things out there like Halo that are grounded in some good research science. I know those guys. I don't have any affiliation to them, but putting something on your head to stimulate neurons, it's grounded in the right logic. The issue I have with it, not Halo, but all devices like that, is the spatial precision isn't that great. What if the headset is tilted this way or that way? You're talking about motor cortex, that's this, centimeter big, and what are you doing, and is important. But look, people are exploring this. People are going to continue to do it. So what does the future hold? Highly precise writing to the brain, not just reading from the brain. And the psychedelic movement, if there is such a thing, the kind of modern psychedelic movement, not the one in the 60s, but the one that was happening up until COVID hit, where everywhere in the media, it seemed like people were talking about psilocybin, ayahuasca, LSD, microdosing, all that kind of stuff. That to me was saying, look, people are interested in how the brain can be modified. And they were looking to books like Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind, and chemicals to access those plasticity states. But what all that leaves aside is what exactly are the changes we're trying to create, right? I'm not here to say that psychedelics are good or bad. I do think they need to be used in a clinical setting, or, hopefully, they're illegal for one, but but even if people are using other routes to get to them, I think they need to ask themselves, what are you really trying to write into your brain? What are you trying to create? And I think the future of neuroscience is highly precise writing to the brain to create minds that function better and hopefully that are benevolent and treat each other better. I like the idea of enhancing empathy. I like the idea of improving our species in the right direction. As soon as you talk about writing to the brain, people start thinking about cyborgs and rage and killing and destruction. And sure, it could be deployed for that, but there are also a huge number of ways in which writing to the brain in these very precise ways could be deployed to help mental disease, to help schizophrenia, movement disorders, bad thought patterns, trauma, and to create more benevolent beings. And if this sounds crazy, think about this. If every other aspect of our biology is limited, like I can't fly, so they invented these things called airplanes that allow us to travel further distances. Humans have always looked to technologies to take our biology where it couldn't go on its own. And this is going to happen. It's happening now. And I trust, I'm an optimist, but I trust that on average, it's going to be used to greatly evolve our species for good. I really believe that. And it's coming. So people should know that it's coming.
Well, I would hope so. I'd hope we can all be more empathetic. We've got a lot of assholes in this world. So if we can start understanding it,
well put.
You know, if we can start understanding each other, and, you know, it's like, is it a 6 or a 9? It's all about perspective. So if we just understand each other a little bit more, and we can walk around that table and we can turn that number a little bit, then we're just gonna be much better off. We can still have our own opinions about things, but I just think that the trolling community and all that sort of stuff, I just think we just need to be nicer, we need to be more kind. So just having a little bit extra empathy. So if that's, you know, some sort of rewiring or writing the brain, like, absolutely, I'm all for it.